daily trading recap for this Wednesday, the 12th of January, 2022. Again, market sentiment today just coming in with not a lot of hot bitchin' opportunity. Just even looking at the red names in the chat at the end of the day here, not a lot of activity going on for anything they're pushing or eyeing for their own trades or what they're looking at or just ideas in general. Even at like the afternoon session, look at the scanner here, just like less than 20 tickers that I was seeing for anything moving for that little scan. Just, it's not a downplay. It's not to be downtrodden upon, but it's just an understanding of where the market is at right now. As for market volume, dollar volume on the day as of half an hour after the close here, NASDAQ $198 billion volume. Nice see. That's incorrect. OTCs, let's look at $2.2 billion volume there. So even in the dollar volume terms, it's not crazy low, but just in regards to what we're showing, opportunity, especially in the small capper sector, is not ludicrous right now. There's always opportunity. I'm never going to deny that. And that is the tough part of trying to go overboard with extrapolating the moves that are there to say, oh, these are the A+ setups or these are the trades that you should be looking at, when in reality, those best setups that do offer some sense or resemblance of a 10% profit trading block of, should I really be looking at those in normal, like hot market? I'm not going to call like a 2020 market normal by any means, but in a normal January, February, to say, gosh, we should be seeing all these things I'm saying in quotations with bunny ears of should be seeing these types of movers moving this way, or we should be seeing these A+ movers coming this way. And it's just, gosh, it's at best, in my view, of these like C, C+, B trades that are appearing. And it's tough to even take those two because of that market sentiment just hasn't been there of repetition for that style of trade, because I definitely trade based off of recent similar price action charts to say if, okay, these two tickers may not be the exact same, they may not have the same price and the same news, the same sector of what they actually are as a ticker, but hey, price action looks pretty similar to what these things did. Let's see if they end up doing the same thing, and if that starts to be a repeatable pattern, then I definitely like to play off of that just based on that probability of the trade happening versus necessarily a defined risk profile of that individual trade itself. And going off of that, and if, it's hard to even take those little B or C+ trades if the market sentiment isn't there, hasn't been showing or proving itself that those trades can work out. And then you look at it later at the end when, maybe you stay out of the trade and say, okay, yeah, well, I saw that trade could be there, but it's just hard to even pull the trigger at times in order to take those. So just everything that I'm doing now is still paper. Still got my only real trading that was on the day of still holding my one share of DWAC, which is closing pretty nice. We'll mention that in a little bit, but a few little morning dumper opportunities, NXGL, that I'll just mention quick. This is going to be a very quick rapid fire for these charts of NXGL. Just wasn't a part of. Did have a nice little morning dump send off, little fake out first initial failure to maintain VWAP, but certainly enough, a few minutes later did end up cracking there, and that was a nice hold as a short for that morning dump strategy on that one. Other one, IMMX, that I mentioned, did not trade this one, and it didn't actually have shares to short through trade zero off of this initial perk here. So, and it was extremely low float, 1.2 million float, American Biopharma. And had a little fake out double bottom break below VWAP there that did spike to new high of day, but then it ended up did become the top for that morning session. And you could call it a little bit of nice opportunity there to the downside, but certainly a longer hold to be a part of for that any downside off of that failure to maintain VWAP. And then eventually it did become 11-cent shares to borrow just before the bell that I did see when I was just trying again randomly, kind of bored out of my mind with that. Did have a little dipping action, reclaim above VWAP, just kind of sideways. And call it an afternoon fade opportunity there to the downside, but I just really didn't want to be a part of it, even to the paper side. Just for what I felt the sentiment on this one was the super low floatiness, how I could feel just be sketchy and a picking tops battle on that. Just let it do what it wants to do there. The other one I did start to get short on just to play around all these paper short again, or paper long. IMRN, another Australian biopharma, 4.5 million float. News catalyst on this one was they actually got a bunch of money from the U.S. Department of Defense to do some research on dosing stuff, whatever. Interesting news daily in this downtrend, bottoming, bleeding action as along if there are any bag holders so looking to potentially sell into any perk as a just last-ditch resort effort to get out some measly amount of profit or loss. But anyway, looking at the dip and rip potential on this one, looking for any bottoming action, got in at a long here of 386-ish. Had a little perk above 4, but then instant rejection off of that. So was able to get out with like half of the position, paper-wise again, like 395-ish, and then cut the rest as it was breaking this little low here. And then the sentiment again for the times I've done that on FRLN, and the other one that I didn't take the few days after that trade. That same thing again of if these first green day movers are showing that, hey, we're just going to continue to break lows, then don't fight that sentiment and just go along with it. Understand that they're just going to continue to do the same thing. So especially as we get this big top wick, red candle eventually becomes rejection with bigger volume. Hey, let's go short alongside of it, see if it does break that bottom and tend to start to go lower from there. Similar to how it did on this long of we get this huge immediate like pullback out of nowhere that I do cover a little bit into, and then I got a little bit too squirrely with that remaining half share position, knowing that I wanted to play for a longer fade, but also in the back of my mind to say, I'm not just going to kind of play with fire. If this thing does start to show any amount of strength coming back closer to 3.8, I'm going to be looking to cut. And my risk level was just like 1 cent too low. Yes, that I should have had. If I was 1 cent higher, then I would have still been in this one and let it play out a little bit more. Maybe would have been tempted to cover here in these little perks, but I'm still even a little bit more downside on that little small short afternoon post-morning session fade trade on that one. But even these are just not awesome or beautiful style of trades that I want to put in the playbook, or even that I want to be taking actual trades on it. This is still, everything is paper, and for where I'm at in my trading career, everything is still just learning, especially in this market. And we can learn a little bit off the backs of like the Bryce Tuies and the Matt Monaco's. They're still trading real, of course, but even at that, it's very smaller position size. It's far scaled back of trying to push anything there that really is or doesn't want to be there. Just it's got to be slap you in the face, ready to go in order to be a trade. BDTX second day play, 20 million floater, sub penny borrow fees, very easy borrow fees. Just kind of going through the motions, what I would be doing with real trades. But even though this was paper, of playing for that sentiment of these second day plays of just that fade, normally I would look to be like I did on SBEV of trading that overnight, holding these first green day movers overnight before the little bit of sell-off, that little bit of lack of volume to keep these things just going parabolic and squeezing out any shorts like me trying to play an overnight play like that. But the sentiment I feel has been there in these past few weeks of just kind of death and bleeding. And maybe it's not spike against you in the face. That's really my key to get out of this strategy is, okay, we're getting over 75%, 80% of these are just spiking crazy against me. That's time to say this playbook trade is not going to suffice for right now. But otherwise, this one, I was coming into today, I wanted to be very keen off of the back of yesterday and Monday as well, of not so much focusing these paper trades and this little repetitions that I'm going through just for the experience that I know I want to keep in the future. I wanted to get more focused on the entries rather than how I was it just became I was in trades in pre-market and then just let them do what they want to do. And then the learning came through the exits. So today I said, okay, let's focus a little bit more on entries and BDTX and then TSRI, which were kind of my main focus for these second day shorts. They were just lack of volume and nothing going on in pre. So it was just like, okay, I'm not going to say myself anything. These are just going to be, they have to kind of follow that same mentality of just blanketing short and understanding that for the dojis that's going on, for the lack of printing that's going on in these pre's, just get short. If your thesis is that, you got to play off of that and then work with what you got. So there was, over the course of the day, nice little sell-off and follow of that full red day sentiment that the trend of this chart was downward, and that's really what I was trying to focus on for these second day plays is, okay, which either way you pull it and whatever, even if you're getting short in pre-market, even if you're getting short right out of the gate in the morning session, 497, it's a few cents, but overall you're still going to be biased in the correct direction for what the full sentiment for that chart is. I say sentiment 10 million times per video, but just following along with, going with the smart money, just going along with where the thing's going, not to fight the trend. The same thing with TSRI. Trying to do a second day play similar to that of BDTX, but of course very, very different ticker and very different price action on this first day. This is also a sub-million floater, so also carrying that risk for going short anything sub-million float and respecting that price action that can happen as a result and just spike you in the face before you even realize it. But with this one, again, just lack of volume, lack of really anything going on in pre, and just kind of blanketing short initially paper. Does have a little perk 2 VWAP and spike with a little bit of volume here. That does become a little, in my book, the short into that little morning spike, looking for the top there. Get another little short position for that volume exhaustion. Does start to pull back to VWAP off of that, but then just continues to hold that point and push it a little bit higher. So that cleared me out of that trade. Again, paper for all of this, for just that little learning experience. And it did hold pretty well the rest of the day. Just became a sideways day and did have a little bit perk here in the afternoon with that volume off of that consolidation for how it was holding this 10.5 to 11-ish range, also from yesterday as well. Learning experience there. We'll see what it wants to do on this third day. SBEV was another one of this. Tried to overnight this one. That same thesis of it was holding a little bit well. I like to see it actually closing above VWAP on that first screen day for this little very short term, what I'm seeing right now, style of playbook trade. And it does offer a little 10% move, 174-ish, getting anywhere around 1.6. I mean, that's a decent trade, and I might have to look into potentially scaling out of those types of trades, similar to how I like to do it on that morning dump strategy of, okay, holding these things overnight, of what profit target I should be looking for, but still leaving some on if the probability is going to be for that second day that it's still going to be death and red day in total. But this one just was not, that morning session especially, just had a little bit more rise in it, little fight left in it, and just was able to pick a top well. Was what I thought a similar type of little volume exhaustion or just morning volatility perk that we were able to get another fill and for some more downside, that it did bounce off of VWAP there and eventually start to continue to push to a new high of day that forced me to cover. But in the back of my mind, I'm knowing this thing, it's just, I have to respect that price, but I know it's just not going to go crazy against me. And I want to be just bag holding these things short because I know this full, these things are just crap and death is soon going to be upon them. But continuing to play it as a smart trader and understanding that I want to be practicing the right principles. And even with these paper trades, I know I got to be continuing to hold myself accountable to what I know I would be doing with actual cash money on the line there if this chart could even load. Yeah, those were the paper charts, and still got one share long, a DWAC. That one share is just keeping me sane. That one share is still from yesterday, getting in on that entry. Nice little break to the upside for getting us into this multi-day breakout points. Man, these charts are just not wanting to load. Still here, just barely sub 57 entry. Very nice screen day today, and actually getting us into that breakout range above this little former high here, and then this also top as well around that 0.65-ish area. You could say I was almost hoping for a little bit of a rest day today, or just kind of consolidation, so we could build a little bit more, consolidate, gain more attention for the eyeballs on this one, so it doesn't just become this little, like, this is the end move, because it was just too much too quick, that you don't give enough you don't give enough time for shorts to accrue in this one, to get squirrely. You don't give enough time for longs to see it and start to bag hold this one again. So it could be a little bit of a death sentence to continue holding this trade at the 73 mark that we're at right now. But that was my target coming into this, knowing that I wanted to be looking for that big move. I've already taken safe profits of what I doubled in on the secondary bottom here on that day yesterday, and was taking safe profits around 64 to lock in that trade. But I still feel, we're looking at this trade with the perspective of a powerful position and not having to be so swayed by the individual tick by tick price action. Continue to let this thing work out on a longer term time frame, which was the idea going into this trade in the first place. So not to try to say that lightning can strike twice with what it did on that October with that move there, but God, in relation to what I think the potential is for this trade, and if and when or any news catalyst does come out, if that pumper in chief does start to actually play around with this ticker, we could get some crazy action coming in on this one. And again, it's one share, and that's perspective of, okay, do I look at this if I was actually trading it with a normal big position size? And I could see myself taking off a few shares into the close here as it's tapping 71, but still definitely leaving some on. In the same light of, okay, would I be leaving shares on into this, because it is this euphoria state of, okay, everything's going up, we're in this nice breakout state, we got clear skies until $200, right, for these next few days. All we need is that volume piece, and that's just going to be the final piece of the puzzle. Is that euphoric state, and then we end up getting immediately from this point here of the high of 73 start to fall off, come back a little bit closer to VWAP. Pre-market tomorrow looks a little bit weak, starts to lack in volume, and then we get that push back down to $60 range. Is that going to be the high today? I could see a lot of different variables coming in on this one over the next few days, but it is that one share, and I'm going to trade it as such. I know it would be speculative either way because I don't do much of these swingy style of trades, and being able to experiment and understand that emotional roller coaster, roller coaster of how these charts end up moving at times. But I think it's going to be very interesting, and I still think there is a lot of potential rocket fuel left in this one for the next few days if some volume does come in, and if it doesn't get too steep, too quick, too parabolic that way. That's really all I had. Nothing huge key for me on the scanners right now, similar to yesterday. I think I'm going to be off. I'm going to be in for the morning session, but I think I have to take off for other stuff just before market opens. So probably will be taking a little screen recording and then just learning after that for that little stuff I got to do. But that's the game plan. Just continuing to maintain the discipline and show up every single day, even though the market may be saying, it's not time right now. It's not just like, here's your $10,000 per day type of market. Just all you got to do is have an entrance fee. Just got to show up, be in front of the screen, and then you're making money. It's not that type of market right now, but these times do certainly set up for the mentality to have when it does become hot or when the opportunities do start to slowly reveal themselves. God, it's exciting, and I'm thankful for it every single day. And I thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.